what we're going to be looking at, talking about, is the importance of making sure that you have a live answer on every lead that comes in when you are working with inbound lead generation, and then the KPIs, how you're tracking that, what you're evaluating, and what you're looking at. To get us started today, we're going to talk about answering the phone live, if that is yourself, a team, an AI bot, and all the different aspects that go into that to make sure that you guys are getting the best bang for your buck when going after your inbound leads. So Scott, I'm going to let you kind of start off a little bit here and kind of just give us an overview of what you see with inbound leads and answering those lives from some of your clients.
Yeah, I mean, this is a simple thing. Is what we want to do is stop the conveyor belt. As people are calling in off of mailers or whatever form of marketing that you have out there, is if you don't answer it live, what happens is they don't stop, they go to the next one. If you don't get them that conversation to start solving their problem, they're going to continue to look to find somebody to start solving it. So whether it's an assistant or yourself or an acquisitions manager or something like that, we need to get them on the phone to schedule the next appointment or the next step, which is going to stop them. They're like, okay, now somebody's taking care of it. I don't have to keep calling. I got somebody. That's going to stop about 80% of them. The other 20% are going to continue to call. But if we don't, I often refer to this as like if you're sitting at a coffee shop and drop a couple $100, because a typical lead is $300 or $400 for an inbound generated lead. So if you drop a couple hundred, are you going to pick it up right then? Or are you going to take the time to just kind of let it blow around, let somebody else have a chance to pick it up? Absolutely not. Every one of us are getting up right then and picking that money up. And so in doing so, that's what Live Answer simply does is, whether you're using our system or your system, but have somebody in there to stop that progression and have that person only dealing with you so we can start to solve their problems as we go.
Yeah. And Scott, I agree 100%. And something new that a lot of people have been testing out and we've been seeing float around this year is AI bots answering the phone for you. And with this, we've heard some that are pretty good. They do a good job, but we've heard some that are horrible. So if you are thinking about paying for an AI bot service to answer this phone, qualify the lead for you, try and set the appointment or set up a time to contact you directly, make sure you're doing your homework on that. Make sure that you're asking for a lot of sample calls. And then if you do move forward with that service, instead of using an actual human, make sure that you have a way to listen to those calls, record it. I've heard plenty of people use them and they're losing their leads because the AI bot, it doesn't understand a frustrated human. It doesn't understand what to do. It simply just keeps saying, tell me about the property. Please confirm this. Please confirm that. And then you just hear human, representative, let me talk to somebody, click, and they're not calling you back. So just something that as we've entered the world of AI with that service, be careful with it if that's the route that you go. From everything Scott and I see and all the people that we work with, having an actual human answer that phone for you is still always going to be best practices. I'm not saying that's forever. AI is getting better and better as time goes on. But as of right now, at the end of 2025, going into 2026, I would try having a person live answer for you for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all go through these frustrations of, talking to somebody on the phone, prior to AI, what was it? It was whether they were, American, whether they had our dialect and stuff like that, the overseas VAs, we went through it with them. There's still nobody better answering the phone than a live representative inside of your office. And then after that, you go to that next step, whether, it's a VA or somebody out there that you trust to answer that phone call and qualify that lead. But most importantly, it is just simply there to stop that seller from going to the next person. So you're the primary bite at the apple. You're the primary solution maker for them. And we see the rate of return that oftentimes these services pay for themselves. If you're not, and that's the next part of this conversation is KPI tracking. If you're not tracking your live answer conversions compared to your, AI, if you're going that way, or VA or things like that, you'll see that there is a difference. And oftentimes we'll find 1 to 5 more deals a year that is going to pay for that extended service. We often look at the upfront cost, but we don't look at the ROI on the back end, because that upfront cost is an easy number to find. But if you're tracking your KPIs, you're going to be able to find that also. So stepping into KPIs, this is one of the most important things to be doing inside of your investment business, or real estate business, is knowing your numbers, what to pivot to and what to pivot from. Does that make sense, Charles?
Yeah, definitely. And on top of that, when to make those pivots. People who have been tracking their KPIs for years can find patterns inside of the year and find when certain types of marketing or their certain type of mailer that they're using works better in the spring versus the summer, the fall, and getting it all the way narrowed down to just knowing their rotation. So with this, Scott, I think you said you had some prepared KPIs as something just interesting to show that we actually end up seeing all the time. And there's a lot of times where we will get into a scenario where we test out a form of marketing and we think that it fell on its face. And we think that it completely failed, where really it just took a little bit of time to get started. So with this one that Scott's getting ready to show you, we're going to be looking at an example of where, if you were not tracking your KPIs, you would think that you wasted $8,000 on marketing, where we're going to see that this actually turns out to an extremely good response rate and an extremely good cost per lead. It just took a little bit of time. So Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you. I see you already flipped on your screen, and let you walk us through these numbers.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for KPIs, I would have never seen this. And it just happened to be doing an account review, and I came back and I saw it. I'm like, wait, what is that? And this was a smart list that we did back in 2023. We mailed it in July, paid for it in July, bulk sum. And then in doing that in 2023, we noticed it goes July to August. Well, there's a gap there. There's, or July to October, there's a gap there. No August, no September. So that was 90 days practically, or at least 60 plus, that we had no responses on this mailer. When we did call tracking on it, or not call tracking, but mail tracking on it, the post office said they delivered it, but nobody responded. Then all of a sudden, late November or late October, going into November, going into December, sometimes the lowest response rates of the year, but all of a sudden they started responding. Well, that's probably because the post office never delivered it. But in looking at that, if we add that up over the next year, we're still seeing response rates in there, coming up through September of 2025. So here's KPIs telling me July of 23, 2 years later, we're still getting inbound calls and responses. And then here's a first time caller, in May of 2025. So without KPIs, I would have not known, or I would have continued to think that REI Smart data was terrible in New Jersey, but coming back to look at it, that it was more of a postal issue. And through that, then now I can bring that data set back into it. And if I do the math on it, we generated a 1% response rate. So 10 calls for every 1,000 mailers that went out over the lifetime of it. Now, the majority of them came right here in the first 3 months, but with KPIs, we can also see the tail of mail of how long it lasts and how long to leave the phone numbers on. So KPIs just simply turn the lights on, give you an answer to the questions that you have. And it's a truthful answer for the most part, but sometimes you got to read them right. Know that mail's in the air, or when mail lands, when they're going to start to respond, and then how long it takes them to typically respond as they go.
Yeah, and something I want to add on to this, as you guys can see where Scott has it highlighted right now, it was $8,355.50 to receive 0 calls in July, which would be extremely frustrating. But if you look at those numbers as they go up in the column 11, 24, 33, 6, 2, 1, 2, 0, all the way up there where his arrow is, we got right around 100 calls spaced out for this. And when we divide that out, that's only $83 a lead. And with an inbound lead, a person who is interested in selling their property to the point where they reach out to you, only spending $83 a piece on those is pretty impressive. Where if we would have never tracked this, especially needing the 90-day cycle to start really generating those calls, we would have thought that was a total waste of money. And I think everybody would agree at $83 an inbound lead, that is not a total waste of money. That's actually a home run. So it goes to show that some things are delayed, some things are masked, and the only way you're going to see the things that are hidden, the things that are going to find you that secret stuff that you're like, man, where do those other guys get this from, is if you're tracking it.
Yeah, KPIs, like I often say, is they turn the lights on inside of the industry, know what to pivot to, what to pivot from, make an educated decision as we go to know that, hey, this mail piece is getting a better response rate. This data set's getting a better response rate. Now, when I also say that they can lie to you, is most people stop right there at response rate. They don't continue that on to look at deal flow. So, last year we had one where we sent out roughly 10,000 mailers. We got a 0.018% response rate. Terrible. 1 to 2 phone calls per 1,000 mailers going out. And we only generated roughly 18 calls out of 10,000 mailers. We were like, oh man, that was bad. We need to shut that off. Hey, but client, Mr. Client, before you do, Mrs. Client, let's go back and, let's double check our deals, because that's where a lot of people are missing right now, is they're not going to look at their deals and build their avatar. And if you grab your deal flow and start to bring that back full circle to say, okay, now where did those deals come from? To make sure that we can continue to repeat that and analyze that deal flow. As we look at that, we found in that particular campaign, of the 18 calls, we did 8 deals. So roughly 50% of those inbound calls turned into contract, turned into closing. Mm-hmm. And that was 80% of his deal flow for the month came off of that one list that we were about to cancel based on the KPIs. So even dig deeper into your KPIs, followed all the way through to ROI, and know where the deal is coming from. Bring it back, find it where you got it from, and make sure we're not shutting off the wrong one because we're utilizing KPIs incorrectly and not looking at the whole picture. And then in doing that, what are we doing? We're bringing that back, and we're continuing to build our avatar of where we're finding properties, not only in the data set, but also where we're finding those properties as deals. We want to continue through that and continue to recycle that through.
Yeah, and to finish us off, because this video, we want to keep it on the shorter side, but to finish that off is on the flip side. I've had campaigns where we've spent $5,000 and we've ended up getting 50 calls from it. And with it, we're like, oh my gosh, this is phenomenal. The phone is ringing off the hook. I can barely keep up with it. I'm going to have to hire another acquisitions member just to keep up with these calls. Let's double down. Let's go to 10,000 on this. And we're flying blind. And no deals came from it. Yeah, cool. 50 calls, 0 deals. That was $5,000 that got no return on investment. So you have to watch it on both ends as well. And it's just another thing. You're in the dark unless you're tracking this stuff and you're seeing what's happening. And don't get fooled by something that looks good, but really it's not getting you anything on the back end.
Right. And don't be fooled on the other side of that. The stuff that looks like trash that's actually pretty good. So, in hindsight, we can go back through KPIs and know exactly what's working, how it's working, where it's working, and then continue to use that to predict what we're going to be able to do in the future to kind of hone in and clean up our expenses.
Yeah. And with that, just tracking your deals, knowing what data source they came from, which mailer or marketing source they came from, knowing when the deal came in versus when that marketing started, and then knowing if it's being tracked by a phone number, how it's being tracked, what it came from is very, very important as well. And we want all that small info. I get a lot of people like, yeah, here's my deals. It was at 123 Any Street. And it came back in July. Cool. How many beds? How many bath? What was the square footage? I don't know. I didn't write that down. All right, well, what if your avatar is moving? So I see a lot of times where people get in their own way because they're like, this is my avatar. This is the only thing that gets me deals. I've been tracking this for 2 years. I'm like, cool. Do markets shift? Do times change? Do different style houses become more popular for investors in certain areas? And the answer is yes. So when you're tracking your deals, take the time to know everything about that deal so we can make sure your avatar also is not having a shift or a change. I'm not saying anything drastic, but they do move a little bit. And that's something that we help people identify as well when tracking those KPIs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great way to sum it up. I appreciate your guys' time today. If there's any questions, you can always reach out to us. We'll sit down and have a one-on-one conversation. We can walk you through, how to track KPIs, what to track, how to split test, how to utilize tracking numbers better, when to turn them off, which, to me is never. So feel free to, kick either of our shares. That's what we're here for, is to help you guys make better decisions inside of your business and marketing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Scott, thanks for jumping on with me today. Guys, I hope this helps you. And like Scott said, if you want to go in deeper and specifically to you, feel free to reach out to either one of us, Scott at REIPrintMail.com or Charles at REIPrintMail.com. Shoot us an email and we can definitely get a time set up.